What do you get when a billion-dollar studio tries to reinvent a classic fairy tale, casts a rising Gen Z star with a mind of her own, and hands her the keys to one of the most iconic roles in cinema history? Apparently, a $200 million legal headache. The controversy surrounding Disney's live-action Snow White remake just hit a boiling point. Before we dive into one of the most bizarre and chilling mysteries to ever hit Hollywood, make sure to subscribe if you love deep dives into unsolved cases, hidden truths, and shocking celebrity mysteries. Trust me, this one is going to leave you speechless. And at the center of it all? Rachel Zegler, a star who was once being hailed as Hollywood's next big thing, and is now being called into emergency legal meetings with Disney execs over what's shaping up to be the studio's most expensive PR disaster in years. Following brutal box office results, backstage tension, and now public accusations from none other than the producer's own son, the fallout has become so intense, so personal, and so wildly corporate that it's not just a movie story anymore. It's a legal drama. It's a brand crisis. It's a war of narratives with hundreds of millions of dollars on the line. Let's break down what happened, what's being said behind the scenes, and why Rachel Zegler may now be one press quote away from losing it all. To understand how this all spiraled out of control, you have to go back to the start, when Disney proudly announced a live-action reboot of Snow White, casting Rachel Zegler as the first Latina actress to play the legendary princess. It was a move meant to signal Disney's forward-thinking, inclusive brand. The press release practically wrote itself, a new kind of princess for a new generation. But almost immediately, things started to get messy. During the press tour, Zegler made a series of now infamous comments about the original 1937 film. She dismissed it as outdated, mocked the central romance, and referred to Prince Florian as a creepy stalker, all while promoting a film based on that exact storyline. Clips of her interviews went viral. Fans were furious. Even people who hadn't cared about the remake before were suddenly weighing in. And instead of controlling the message, Disney watched helplessly as their lead actress became the main reason people were tuning in to not watch. Then came the real turning point. Jonah Platt, son of Snow White producer Mark Platt, took to social media and blasted Zegler in a now-deleted post that read like a carefully curated list of everything Disney was trying not to say out loud. He called her narcissistic, accused her of biting the hand that feeds her, and said her disrespect for the original film was a key reason Snow White was underperforming. He even hinted that she had caused friction with the creative team behind the scenes. Sure, Jonah isn't officially on the Disney payroll, but when the producer's son goes rogue like that, the optics are devastating. Suddenly, the narrative wasn't just fans are upset, it was the studio is upset too. And with the tweet spreading like wildfire, racking up millions of views and responses, it sent a very clear message: the gloves are off. In response to the chaos, Disney reportedly called an emergency legal meeting with Zegler and her representation. And no, this wasn't a let's all take a breath kind of meeting. This was high-stakes corporate triage. According to insiders, the meeting focused on contractual obligations related to promotional responsibilities, morality clauses potentially triggered by statements deemed damaging to the Disney brand, the possibility of financial penalties or limitations on future collaborations. Ziegler's team came in swinging. Their position? Rachel was doing exactly what she was told. The film was marketed as a modern reimagining. Disney wanted her to talk about empowerment, to position the new Snow White as independent and anti-traditional. If she leaned too hard into that message, that was on poor media coaching, not rebellion. But Disney's legal team reportedly didn't care about intentions. They cared about impact. The interviews had become a punchline. The fan base was alienated. And now, the studio was facing potential nine-figure losses with no way to spin it. The studio is said to be reviewing whether Zegler violated the tone of her PR contract, opening the door to potential consequences, ranging from pay disputes to reduced involvement in sequels, promotions, or even future Disney properties. At the center of all this? A remake that's turned into a financial albatross. Snow White reportedly cost between $250 and $300 million, factoring in its sprawling VFX budget, reshoots, marketing, and international distribution costs. And so far, the returns have been devastating. The second-week drop of over 66% was the real death knell. Disney had been hoping for legs, repeat viewings, family audiences, international markets. Instead, it got empty theaters and awkward silence. Behind the scenes, fingers are being pointed everywhere. Marketing blames bad messaging. The creative team blames casting and interviews. Executives blame each other. And now, everyone's looking at Zegler, which raises a critical, uncomfortable question. Is this all her fault? Obviously not. One actress doesn't tank a $300 million film by herself. But did her comments pour fuel on a fire that was already smoldering? Absolutely. And in a world where brand image is currency, Disney may try to recoup its losses by making Rachel the fall princess, contractually, legally, and publicly. The real nightmare here isn't just the money, it's the long-term damage to Disney's brand. Shareholders are reportedly furious. Disney's already had a rocky year, streaming struggles, Marvel fatigue, and Bob Iger playing CEO hot potato. Snow White was supposed to be a win. Instead, it's become a symbol of everything fans think is going wrong. Over-politicized storytelling, disrespect for source material, talent that feels disconnected from the brand's legacy. Fans aren't just mad about Zegler's comments, they're mad that Disney let her say them. It looks like a company that's lost control of its own narrative. And if there's one thing Disney hates more than bad box office numbers, it's the perception that they don't know what they're doing. As for Rachel, this isn't just a bump in the road. This is a career-altering moment. Studios are watching closely, PR teams are taking notes, and casting directors are asking, do we want the drama? She could bounce back, many stars have. But in an era where every word becomes a headline, Zegler is now the face of a cautionary tale. What happens when modern messaging, fan nostalgia, and corporate branding collide and explode? As for Snow White, don't expect a sequel. Don't expect much streaming fanfare. And definitely don't expect Disneyland to roll out any new rides. The dream was to reinvent a legend. What they got instead was a case study in how not to update a classic. Let's zoom in on Disney itself. While the internet's been dragging Rachel Zegler through the fire, there's a civil war happening inside the castle. On one side, the creative teams, writers, directors, and producers who wanted to reimagine Snow White as a feminist, politically aware heroine. These were the people pitching a movie where true love was optional, dwarfs were replaced with CGI, magical forest beings, and legacy elements were trimmed down to avoid what one exec reportedly called problematic nostalgia. On the other side, the corporate side, the Disney lifers and brand managers who care about legacy, merch, and broad, family-safe appeal. And as the backlash hit, those internal tensions exploded. Sources say early test screenings were already sounding alarms, with execs worried that the film had lost the fairy tale charm. But by then, reshoots were expensive, Rachel Zegler's comments were already out in the world, and the machine was too far down the track to turn back. Now, creative is blaming corporate for selling out the message. Corporate is blaming creative for alienating fans. PR is blaming both sides, and nobody can decide who let their multi-million-dollar princess become a walking soundbite machine. It's not just about Zegler anymore. It's about a company that no longer knows what story it's trying to tell. And here's something that hasn't gotten enough attention. Where is the rest of the cast in all this? You'd think with the film under fire, some co-stars might jump in to support Zegler, or at least do damage control. But instead, it's been crickets. Gal Gadot, who plays the evil queen, has kept her comments strategically vague. She's posted about the movie once or twice, but there's been zero defense of Zegler. Not in interviews, not in Insta stories, not even a polite "working with Rachel was wonderful" moment. Just silence. Same with Andrew Burnap, the prince. He's reportedly furious about how the film sidelined his role, and even more furious that he's being lumped into the chaos by association. The vibe from the cast is clear. We don't want the smoke. No one is defending Rachel. No one is backing Disney. Everyone's just trying to distance themselves from the nuclear fallout, which tells you a lot. Here's where this controversy gets industry-wide. Sources say publicists across Hollywood are now rewriting their media training playbooks. Why? Because they do not want another Rachel Zegler situation on their hands. PR firms are already pulling past clips of their clients to flag any inconsistencies, rehearsing press tour responses with actual crisis scenarios, advising talent to stay neutral on legacy IP, even if asked for their opinions, adding no off-script commentary clauses into promotional contracts. It's that serious. One PR insider reportedly said, "Studios don't want authenticity anymore. They want safety. They want robots with perfect sound bites." And all because one actress got too candid on camera, turned the fan base against her, and ignited a studio scandal that still hasn't cooled down. Rachel Zegler didn't just get burned. She's now the case study for every future star in how not to do a press tour. Remember when Disney films used to print money through toys, costumes, and merch? Yeah, that didn't happen with Snow White, 2025. Retailers like Target, Walmart, and Amazon were weirdly light on product rollouts. Why? Because after Zegler's comments about hating the original film, and with fan buzz circling the drain, nobody wanted the merch. Snow White dolls sat on shelves. Halloween costumes never even went into wide production. Limited edition pins? Canceled pre-orders. Theme park tie-ins? Quietly shelved. And for Disney? That's a devastating red flag. Merch isn't just icing on the cake, it's a core revenue stream. When a film fails to move product, it's not just a flop, it's a brand failure. And now, even execs are reportedly debating whether Snow White should remain part of the active Disney princess line at all. Think about that. They're talking about retiring Snow White from her own brand because one movie and one actress's interviews made her too toxic to sell. And now we've got confirmation. The Snow White debacle is affecting other Disney reboots. Sources say several upcoming live-action projects are on hold or undergoing rewrites. Among them, Tangled. Executives are reportedly worried about replicating the anti-romance backlash. The Princess and the Frog. Writers are being told to avoid heavy-handed messaging and stay closer to the original script. Hercules. The modern TikTok-inspired take? Yeah, it's being reevaluated. Disney has entered full defensive mode, and they're terrified of another Rachel Zegler situation. It's not just about casting, it's about tone, narrative, and control. They want nostalgia again, not subversion, not reinvention, just stories that make people feel good. And honestly, after this mess, who can blame them? Internally, Disney's financial people are sweating. But the real threat is coming from the outside, the investors. Shareholders have already started asking very pointed questions in quarterly reports, including, why was Zegler allowed to speak so freely? Who approved the creative direction? Why didn't PR intervene earlier? Some are reportedly calling for changes in talent oversight, demanding better vetting of actors, especially for franchise roles. One insider even said there was talk of forming a dedicated legacy IP oversight team to prevent future disasters. Yes, that's real. Disney may literally create a committee just to stop another princess from calling her prince a stalker. That's how deep this goes. And finally, let's talk about Rachel's prospects moving forward, because right now, she's not being seen as a safe bet. Casting directors are reportedly concerned about her. Difficult media presence, online reputation, perceived entitlement, lack of audience goodwill. That last one is huge. Studios want stars who bring fans in, not ones who come with a disclaimer and a comment section full of pitchforks. There are even rumors she's lost at least 2 major offers in the past month. Not confirmed, but insiders say her name was on shortlists and then mysteriously vanished. She's not canceled yet, but she's not in demand either. And in Hollywood, that's just as dangerous. As if the situation wasn't already brutal, there are now organized fan campaigns online calling for Disney to recast Rachel Zegler, pull the film from theaters and re-edit it, replace her for any future appearances or sequels. This isn't just a few angry tweets. These are full-blown online petitions with thousands of signatures, Reddit threads with detailed recast dream lists, and Instagram fan edits replacing Zegler with actresses like Jenna Ortega, Hailey Steinfeld, or even unknowns who wouldn't trash talk the brand. There's even a circulating fan-made poster titled Snow White: The Real Version, featuring an AI-generated actress and a prince that actually exists. It's all ridiculous, of course. But the fact that fans even feel empowered to do this shows how fractured the trust has become. Audiences are no longer just watching movies. They think they own the narrative. And if they don't like what they see, they'll crowdsource an alternate reality. And that should terrify every casting director in Hollywood right now. Originally, Snow White was supposed to launch a wave of merchandise, limited edition releases, and collabs across fashion, makeup, and home goods. But in the wake of the backlash, most of those deals are now dead. A fashion brand that was set to launch a Snow White empowerment collection quietly pulled the line after test audiences responded negatively to Zegler's image. A major cosmetics company that had developed a mirror palette with shades like Apple Kiss and Royal Blood scrapped the campaign entirely after social media teams flagged a hostile audience climate. Even fast food tie-ins reportedly backed out, leaving themed kids' meals unreleased and unpromoted. And let's be clear, these collabs don't just promote a movie, they extend its cultural reach. When those fall apart, so does the long-tail revenue that makes these blockbusters profitable in the first place. In short, Zegler's public persona has become such a liability that entire marketing verticals won't touch her. You'd think in a moment of this much heat, other Disney princess actors might come to Rachel's defense. You know, solidarity, sisterhood, shared experience. Nope. Emma Watson? Silent. Lily James? No comment. Halle Bailey? Posted selfies and moved on. Not a single past princess has stepped forward to publicly support Rachel Zegler, not even in vague, every actress deserves grace terms. Nothing. That silence is deafening, and it suggests something bigger. Even within the elite sisterhood of Disney actresses, Rachel is on her own. Whether it's due to brand protection, personal distance, or flat-out disagreement, no one wants to stand beside her while the fire's still burning. She's not part of the Disney Legacy Girl Club, and after this, she probably never will be. Now let's go to the happiest place on Earth where things are suddenly very tense. When a new Disney princess debuts, the theme parks usually go all in. Meet and greet characters, parade floats, new costumes for cast members, merch booths, interactive experiences, snack tie-ins, you name it. But for Snow White 2025, nothing. Park insiders say there was an early plan to soft launch a Zegler-style Snow White character at Disneyland by March. That initiative? Canceled. Uniforms weren't ordered. Character training was never scheduled. The float was shelved, and guests have noticed. People online are asking, why doesn't the new Snow White appear in the parks? The answer, of course, is because she's toxic. The original Snow White still roams Fantasyland in her blue and yellow dress, offering smiles and signatures, but the 2025 version vanished before she even arrived. It's the most Disney thing ever. Pretend the bad version never existed and keep whistling through the Magic Kingdom. Here's how you know the discourse cycle is reaching critical mass. People are already talking about Rachel Zegler's comeback. No, really. A handful of think pieces and TikToks are now saying things like, she's young, she'll learn. Hollywood always forgives. She was set up to fail by Disney's PR team. The redemption arc is trying to creep in early, probably because the story's been so explosive. People feel bad watching someone crash this hard. But here's the problem. Rachel hasn't owned anything. There's been no sincere apology, no thoughtful clarification, no public reset, just vague statements about learning experiences and the occasional retweet of someone defending her. People want a comeback, but without accountability, it feels premature. And the longer she waits to address the damage in a real way, the more that redemption energy will dry up before she can even step back into the spotlight. Let's not forget, we still haven't seen everything that happened behind the scenes. Multiple insiders claim there were on-set arguments between Rachel and production crew, a blow-up moment with a senior Disney exec over the direction of her press talking points, last-minute attempts to redub certain lines before final release, and rumors that Disney cut out several scenes that made Snow White seem too cynical. There's also word that Disney has multiple internal memos outlining approved messaging for the cast, and if those ever leak, Rachel's "I was just following orders" defense might actually gain credibility or collapse entirely. Until then, everyone's guessing, but we're definitely not hearing the full story. Not yet. And finally, here's the reality no one wants to say out loud. Hollywood's top stars are watching this and taking notes. Actors, especially women, know they're often trapped between being interesting and safe. They want to speak freely. They want to challenge old norms. But they're also watching what happens to someone like Rachel Zegler when she pushes too far. She got cast as a princess, then lost the narrative, then lost the goodwill, then, possibly, lost her future with the studio that made her famous. And now, she's a cautionary tale every young actor will be warned about in media training sessions for the next decade. Not because she was a villain, but because she was unguarded. And in this town, unguarded gets you canceled faster than any fairy tale curse.